Carsten Breitfeld, congratulations on being named the CEO of Faraday Future. The company has some well-documented financial problems, had some financial problems, some talent problems, and as far as the outside world can tell, plans for production were essentially on hold. So what is it about this company that convinced you to take the reins?
Yeah, first of all, I'm really happy to be here, and it's an honor for me to serve this company as a CEO in the future. I know the founder, YT Jia, since some years already. We have become very close, and I really admire his vision for the future, which is very much in line with what I think will happen in the future of transportation. And this is not only about electric cars, this is about shared mobility, and it's about ecosystems behind it.
Tell me about the company that you take over. The FF91 is this kind of higher spec luxury car. What is the production timeline for that? And what is the sticker price going to be on that car?
So what we have to understand is the FF91 is much more than an electric car. It shows what is technical possible today. So it has a very fast acceleration, a very good range. It's built for drivers and for passengers. So it's you have big screens in it, a lot of space. The whole interior concept is really designed for passengers. We are going to bring it to market next year, I would say. I don't want to commit on a month right now. And the price will be 150,000 or beyond. So it's a real luxury vehicle to shape the brand.
And who are you targeting with this car? What is the customer base that you're looking at?
This is people we would call early adopters, people who are really fascinated by technology, who want to have the best you can get, the best in technology, the best in quality. And we will build this car in California first, and it will come out of California to some other regions in the world.
You're also planning longer term a sort of mass market vehicle, the FF81, FF81. Tell me about that. What is the production timeline, and what is the difference with that vehicle?
Yeah. So the whole product strategy consists is a top-down approach. So the FF91 will shape the brand as a top luxury vehicle showing what is possible today. FF81 will be the next one, a bit smaller, a bit lower price positioning, still a premium car. And then we are working on a second platform already, which is a platform which is on a much lower cost position. The team in Shanghai in China is working on it. And based on this platform, we are building more vehicles, which then will be built in China and will scale the volume mainly in China.
You talked about the FF91 being produced here in California, but you've also had some problems on the production side. The Hanford plant, before you came to the company, had a number of layoffs. What is the situation at that plant? How many employees were there, are there? What are your plans in terms of hiring and production from that California plant?
So we are just building this plant right now. We are building the team, and I think the things you have mentioned, it's true. But there's some very positive aspect behind it. If a company goes through a difficult time, then the people who remain are the ones who are really excited, who are really buy into the idea, and they really want to make it happen. So the team which stayed at FF now, it's a core team of very passionate and very excited people who really wants to make it happen, whatever it takes. And this is the approach we are doing right now. And the Hanford plant is under construction. It will take some more months, let's say, to get it into a production. The volume will not be so high of the FF91, so we are very confident that we can make this happen within the next 12 months.
The company is also invested in a plant in China, in mainland China. What is the status of that? What is the plan for it?
So the low-cost platform, the scaled model, the volume model, this will be the second step. I think it's too early to comment about a very concrete time frame right now, but I think you will see something within the next 2.5 years.
So it's quite interesting, this dynamic between the US and China. Where do you see the long-term future of this company? Is it a Chinese company in China? Is it an American company here in the USA, or is it a mix of both?
No, I think it's not an American company and neither a Chinese company. It's a global company. So if you want to become the disruptor in transportation, in mobility, you have to act globally in all the big markets. This obviously is China and it is California, but it will happen in Europe and, as well and in other parts in the world. So FF is acting out of California, but it's a true global company and a true global approach.
Tell me about the company you've inherited, I suppose is one way of putting it. What is headcount like? What are your priorities coming in? What do you want to change?
So what I found here, as I said before, is a team of very passionate and very committed people who want to make things happen, whatever it takes. The actual headcount is around 600 worldwide, and I think we will have to build this up a bit. The top priority right now, obviously, I think this is clear, is fundraising. So we will have to go to the capital market. We will have to show what we have. It's a bit unfortunate, I have to say, because during the last 2 years, if you heard about Faraday, it was mainly about the challenges. At least I heard it from outside. But if you come here, and I think you had the chance to see it today, it's so much substance here, so much substance when it comes to technology, to the product, and to the business model. And this we have to communicate, and we have to make people understand that this is the most advanced startup company of all those new companies.
You've noted it, the issue of fundraising. What's the situation? How well capitalized is the company? What funds do you need? And where are you going to get them?
That's a very good question. We have to understand what's going on right now in the capital market. If you look back, and you know that I built another EV company 3 years before. When you look
and we will talk about that, of course.
3 years before, then maybe I exaggerate a little bit, but if you had a nice PowerPoint presentation and a big vision, then you could get hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. This has changed now because I think the whole investment community understood that this business is much more difficult than they thought before. It's a lot of money to invest, kind of heavy investments. It takes time to establish it and it takes time to return. So there's a consolidation going on right now. And at the end of the day, everyone is convinced today that the future will be electric and shared, and it's about digital ecosystems. The revenue will come from this. And now it's about who will be the one who's making the race. And I'm deeply convinced that Faraday is in the absolute best positioning right now when it comes from the product, technology, and the vision for the business model. And this is what we have to state. So I'm confident that we can be successful because if we really communicate this and if we make them understand where this company is standing right now, they will understand that this is the number one to invest in.
But essentially what you have is a very good, almost finished pre-production car. The California plant is still being built. How much cash do you think you need at this early stage to get to production?
So in the first stage, it will be, I don't want to mention a concrete number here, but a $3-digit million amount is still missing to make all of this happen, I would say. And then in the next step, to scale the volume and to bring the next products to the market, the amount is even bigger. But if it is 100 or 200 or a billion, it's not so much of interest from my understanding. The most important thing is to get the trust of capital market and investors that they really understand that this company has a great future. And if we can make this point, then we can progress. And this is where I see a bit of my value coming in here because this company has a great vision. YT Jia developed a great vision. This company has great products. And what is missing now is execution. Bring the product to the market as fast as possible. And this is where I'm coming from. YT is very much coming from digital ecosystem, so he's covering this whole part. I'm coming from the car industry. I really know how to do cars. And I think this combination is perfect to really make it happen.
You said that's a good question when I asked you where the money was coming from. One of the biggest reported backers of this company, Faraday Future, was the Nine. The reports that they had pledged something like $600 million to the company. To the best of your knowledge, how much of that money has Faraday Future received, and what is the status of that relationship with them?
I think strategically it's a very important relationship because this company is coming from the digital world and we are talking about business models covering digital ecosystems. They are in the process of raising money now, and there are some agreements between Faraday and the Nine we are not able to disclose here, but I think we are on a quite good path to move forward together with them.
But as yet, they haven't contributed financially to Faraday Future.
This will be the next step now in the upcoming funding rounds.
You talked about the former CEO, YT Jia. What will his day-to-day role be at the company now that you've taken over as CEO?
So if you look to what is needed to make this company successful, then you have basically two parts. It's the car itself, but the car, as much as we like this technology, this is not the differentiation factor in the future. So that you have cars, high quality, high standard electric powertrain is important, but it will not differentiate you from anyone. BMW, Mercedes, other startups will be able to build electric cars as well. The real thing is customer orientation, it's passenger orientation, it's building an ecosystem behind it. And this everybody is talking about ecosystems today. Everybody is talking about making money out of ecosystems, but most of the people who are talking about it don't understand what they are talking about. This is my impression. And they just don't have it. And the backing or the background of Faraday and of YT Jia is having built a global company building digital ecosystems. So the whole Eco company, this whole background, the know-how, a lot of people around here is available. And he is the one who brings this know-how into the company. So I think it's an ideal combination, and you will not find any other startup company who has on a leadership level those two aspects, car on one side and digital ecosystems on the other side, on this competence level.
What about his interest in the company? What about his shares and the outstanding debts? What happens to those?
So he was the founder of the company. He's very passionate, and his heart is with this company here. And there's only one target he has, I understand, and I have, and this is make this company successful and bring it to the position where it has to be and where it belongs.
Is an IPO still on the horizon?
Every company which grows and is dealing with technology and has big capital needs will think about an IPO one day. This is not on the agenda today, but definitely an option for the future.
Before you joined the company, effectively, stated that an IPO may be realistic when the mass production car comes in. They cited 2020. I mean, when you come into this company, do you see that as being realistic, 2020? Do you feel pressure to meet that target?
I think it's absolutely realistic, because if you look to those cars standing around here, it's pre-production cars. It's more than 90% of the parts are coming out of series production tools. So the only thing which is missing now is ordering the parts from the suppliers, which means paying some money, which we have to get, and then just assemble them. And we are not talking about 300,000 units a year here. We are not talking about a process which has to be established over 1.5 years. This is small series production. You can start this tomorrow, so I feel very confident that we can make this happen.
But you touched on suppliers, vendors. That has been a problem for Faraday in the past. I mean, how urgent is the need for cash to make sure that isn't a problem under your leadership?
So first of all, every startup company will go through those phases. Yeah? It's completely unrealistic to think you start, you get funded, and everything is going smooth. So all the companies are going through it. And the good thing is the suppliers understand this. Every supplier who's working with a startup company like FF will understand that there's risk in it. And what they appreciate is if you establish a long-term relationship and if you really commit to your obligations. And this is what Faraday is doing, even if there have been some difficulties in paying. Most of the suppliers are still with us. We just created a fund, a trust, a supplier trust, where the deal is that the suppliers are coming in. They commit to a long-term relationship. On the other hand, they get the guarantee, let's say, that they will be paid.
So I want to ask a little bit further on that. There were reports that under YT Jia that would be considered, that a trust would be set up essentially with a view to servicing outstanding payments, debts, using equity from the company, as the guarantee. there's also reports that the idea of an IPO would be used to service debt. What discussions did you have about that, about how the money coming in gets used to service previous obligations?
So I'm not in a position to disclose the details of this deal right now. I think you will understand this. But the basic architecture of this whole deal is there's commitment from the partners to go with us the remaining distance, let's say. And on the other hand, they can be sure that we will serve our debts. And there are approaches with equity, there are approaches with cash. Maybe it's interesting to mention there's something bigger than just this vendor trust, which we call a partnership system. So YT had the idea, and I really appreciate this approach, to not only to step down personally from the leadership here, but he made some of his shares available into a pool where we create a partnership system. So that means top management personnel of the company and even outside parties can become partners. They will get some of the equity, so they will become entrepreneurs, if you want. And there's a committee, and this committee will participate in the leadership of the company. It's a very, very innovative model, but this is not any longer run by one person, but by a team of entrepreneurs, obviously under the leadership of a CEO.
And that's effective as of now, essentially, September the 3rd, that Faraday Future operates as a partnership. Is that the case?
This is in the implementation phase right now.
I want to ask just a final question on YT Jia. He was put on the China debt blacklist in 2017. Are you worried about that? To the best of your knowledge, does that status remain, or is it not a problem?
To be honest, I don't know details about this one, and I think it's not up to me to comment about it. The only thing I can say, I know him since years. He's an engineer like myself. He's passionate for the product like myself, and he has this great vision to shape mobility in the future, and this fits very well with my vision as well. So I think I have a very, very close relationship with him. The chemistry is very well. He's a very reliable person with a high level of integrity. This is my take from the time I know him.
And you're confident that you can make the changes that you think will best serve this company as CEO?
This is exactly the reason why I'm here today and why I left everything behind and joined here. I'm absolutely convinced that the substance of this company is so big and so high that it can become the leading company in future mobility systems.
I want to shift gears a little bit on that note, because there are characteristics of Faraday Future that are unique, but there are a lot of similar companies out there, essentially companies with the design base here in California who either plan to produce in China or are backed financially from China or are owned in China. They all are offering something similar, essentially an electric vehicle, a price range, some luxury, some on the lower end. When you look at this ecosystem of EV startups with those characteristics, what do you think? Who do you think is in the lead? Who will be successful?
There's only one company who will be in the lead and successful, and this is Faraday Future. And I would like to repeat this statement, but because it's very important to understand. In the future, it's not about selling cars, and it's not even about selling electric cars. Selling cars is not a sexy business model. You have the big companies, the good companies do EBIT of 6% today, or 7% in selling cars. The real business will be shared mobility, become a provider of mobility, and selling the digital ecosystem. And if you look to the companies you just mentioned, they all might be able to more or less build electric cars. But show me one who really has a digital ecosystem which is so attractive that they can make business out of it. And this is a key differentiation factor. We have this here from YT's past and from YT's experience. We have the people here, some of them are standing around here, and this is what makes Faraday very special and unique.
But why do you think so many are doing that, though? Basically designing here in California and then producing in China. What is the attraction of that business model?
Now, in principle, if there wasn't any trade frictions, then it's a very interesting approach to get technology of California, maybe design and quality from Germany, and do supply chain and production in China. But the world is, as you know, not as easy any longer. We have this.
Are you worried about these trade tensions between the US and China?
We have to live with it. It's reality, I would say. There has always been trade frictions. There will be in the future. It's a bit extreme right now, maybe. But I'm not worried too much because the approach of Faraday is the company is based in California. We are going to produce the high-level products, the first ones who are shaping the brand in California here. On the second step, we are implementing technology and production in China as well. So I think this can balance whatever happens in the trade relationships quite well.
What can you achieve here at Faraday Future that you couldn't achieve at Byton?
Let me answer this way. My first job I did, this was BMW, and this was building pretty and exciting cars for drivers.
The i8, principally?
The i8. I did other programs as well, but this was the most exciting one. Then Byton was, I built Byton as a company to come up with the first, if you want, smart device on wheels. With an electric car, passenger-oriented, bringing digital technology into the car. But the whole business model of Byton is still very much about selling cars. So if you want, maybe we didn't jump far enough to really cover mobility ecosystems. But this has always been my dream. So my third step and my last step now is to run a company who can make this transformation of the mobility industry. And this is not only electric cars, it's not only digital ecosystems, it's about shared mobility, it's about autonomous driving, and bring this all together to become a disruptor in mobility services. And this is what I'm going to do here. And this is the difference.
But you were also, for just a brief period, with Iconic, is that right?
Just for some
So what was the attraction? I mean, my question essentially was, what was the big selling point of Faraday? What were they able to say to you that made you think, okay, yes, I'm going to move to this company and I'm going to develop a product that was very similar to essentially the Byton product? Now, I do appreciate there are differences in characteristics, but to all intents and purposes, they're similar companies. You know, what was it that lured you here?
The basic idea I just lined out is the idea of most of those companies. But when it comes to the ability of execution, then it's very different. Again, Byton is very much focused on selling cars. Iconic has great ideas, but at the end of the day, it turned out that the execution capabilities are maybe not as great as I thought before. But here we have the vision, we have the business plan, we have the product, and all of the technology and the people are so much evolved that we can make it happen soon. So it's not something which might happen in 5 years from now. We can make this happen soon. So next year we can go to production here. And this is something which really attracted me to lead this team. There's a second thing I would like to mention. You might be a bit surprised, but one of the biggest success factors in startup companies is the culture of the people. It's not only about technology and strategy. It's a culture of the people. And there are very big differences in different companies. And the culture I found here is a culture of technology, of being open, direct, working together, no politics, just no drama. And this culture of people which are excited and passionate, and just all of them want to make one thing happen. This is really, really strong, and something which attracted me as well. And the combination of culture, technology, vision, and business plan is unique here. And I got to know this some months before, let's say, in more detail. And I was so much excited then that I decided this is my next and last job.
Which that might surprise some people, though, because of all of the reports about this company. You know, what's your understanding of where Faraday was at its lowest point? Because you basically have to understand how the company operates in good times and bad. I mean, where was this company when it had run out of money? What was headcount like when the layoffs happened? What is it that you heard, about the company in its toughest moments?
I think I heard from outside the same things that you heard, layoff of a lot of people, couldn't difficulties in paying suppliers and a lack of money. I cannot comment on it in detail because it was before, and I want to look to the future. But what I can say, and this is why we are here today, if you look to the substance today, and the substance is the team, the people remaining, this great culture, the products you see, the technology, the number of patents, by the way. This is a company who have, I think, 1,500 patents or something like this. No other startup will have this. And the commitment and the passion of the leadership team to make this happen. This is something very unique. And this convinced me. And we will make this happen.
My final question is talent. So when I've visited companies like Faraday Future, what's interesting is the makeup of the company. Some traditional engineers from OEMs, but a lot of names from Silicon Valley, former Tesla, former Apple, former Google, software engineers. Who are you going to hire? Who are you going to bring in?
This is an excellent question, because this is one of the core you have to achieve. You need from the skills perspective, you need both worlds. You need people who really are able to engineer and do a car, and you need the digital people, the software people, electronics, consumer electronics. Now, you have to bring them together and create one unique culture out of it. It's not if you put a car company and a consumer electronics company together, they will never work together. They not even can talk to each other. So it's about bringing the right talents and create one unique new culture. And this culture is not the one coming from the automotive industry. This culture is the one coming from consumer electronics industry. Thinking about the customer, thinking about, and this is very, very difficult for some car people to understand. A car guy would always say, my product is done, I sell it, it's ready now, I sell it for 7 years, and then I do the next one. A consumer electronics guy never would say this, because the functionality of a consumer electronics device is never done. So you sell a piece of hardware, but the day the customer get it, you update it, you will have new software on it, and then every 4 weeks you get more functionality. And this is exactly the same thing which is going to happen here. So the functionality of the product is evolving over time. It's never ready. We sell something, and then the functionality grows. And this mindset, and this has to be adapted to the customers, and it has to be a feedback from the customers to really understand what customers want. And this is the core you have to achieve. And this culture you have to bring to the company, and the car guys have to learn it. And the consumer electronic guys have to learn something about the car, that you have automotive grade and all those things. But this basic understanding of being more a consumer electronics company from mindset than a car company, this is what we have to achieve.
And you haven't been in the job very long, but have you thought about this already? Are there any big names that will be joining you here that you can tell me about?
What I can say is there are some rumors out that I might join this company, even if there's no official communication. And during the last days, the number of emails and LinkedIn contacts I got went up dramatically. So let's see.